Hey, welcome back to the channel. And we've been on Ed Reed watch over here. I was able to find a phone call from a mother that had a son that went to the recruiting weekend at Bethune Cookman. She provided some more insight into what took place, what information they received from the athletic director. She's supporting Ed Reed. I found this on a YouTube page called Off Script. Young brother over there putting in work. I'm gonna play it based on fair use guidelines, and then I'll follow up with my commentary at the end.
I happen to be one of those parents that was there with my son this weekend when all of this occurred. The feeling that we felt while sitting in that room as an outsider, because as you know, we had not committed. We was there for an official visit. The feeling that we felt, not only when Ed gave us and told us, pretty much what was going on, but to hear the message coming from the athletic director, which is Reggie Theus, and basically lying to us in our face by telling us that he was withdrawing his name when indeed that was not the case. It makes you think as a parent, how and why would I send my child there with people who cannot be transparent and provide accurate information? What are you going to do when there's a situation occurring with my child or any other children that are there, or should I say young adults, because that's what they are at that point, when they have a problem? You have, as we walk the campus, you see buildings that have, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but they have the little creases in the building that is coming from the ground up all the way to the and the roof of the building. So that tells you, number one, either this building is going to collapse soon, or you may have a potential sinking problem, whatever the case is. But when you have these buildings and you have people in these buildings, what are you going to do when the actual problem, arises? You're going to have people hurt. You're going to have, different things come about from that. So wherein you're fixing up your lobby area, instead of putting money back to certain areas on the campus that could be better utilized in making it safer for the students as well as the faculty.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's just a lot of things. You got those issues going on. You have the players that, number one, I'm sure they travel to a practice field. You have players without a locker room. Where do they do that at since 1923?
Sure.
These kids can't even take a shower. They cannot take a shower after a game. They have to go home, take a shower. First of all, you got to make it back to the campus. You got to go home, whether it's off campus or on campus. Then you're able to take a shower and, do whatever it is that you got to do. But do you know how terrible that is with wet equipment, wet jerseys, wet everything sitting on these kids until they're able to shower? There are certain things that could happen as far as dermatology issues from things of that nature with these kids. And I know that for a fact because my son experienced it during his high school career. So that right there is a safety issue. So you're bringing them back. They have nowhere. So you got to get to where you got to go. But nevertheless, Ed was not just concerned with the football team. That's what I definitely want to point out. You had a track. A track that wasn't even a full track. You got a track that's really a straightway. There's no curves on the track. You don't bend. You don't do anything. Where do we have you practicing on a track for track players that you don't have a full track? You got plenty space there. We viewed it as we walked the campus. There's a whole big field there that could potentially be field on campus instead of the kids having to walk across the street, which was still Ed's primary concern. But this is where they pointed out that this is where they wanted it. So guess what? He's going to abide by what they say. We're going to go over here and clean out this stuff. But there's an entire field on campus that's not being used. Why? So all of this goes back to the current administration. So we as parents, when we sat in that room and we actually got a chance to give some questions to Reggie Theus, because what he did initially, it took forever for him to come on to even address us. He sent other people in there. There was one gentleman in particular that's been there since 1994, associated with the athletic department. And we basically told him, you're part of the problem. Because if you've had all of this going on and we see no changes, what are you doing besides going along to get along?
Facts.
You can't do that when you're facing kids and when you're facing safety issues, when you're facing things like this to be put out on Front Street, and then all of a sudden you want everybody to shut up. Because basically, they only took a few questions from us. And why? Because we pointed the problem right back at them.
When did this meeting occur? Because I know I saw the meeting with...
It was this past Saturday. We were there on campus from the night. We went that Friday on the 19th and we left on Sunday the 22nd. The meeting occurred early a.m. Saturday morning when we were on the way for day 2 of the itinerary as far as what we were going to be doing on day 2. And this is what we're faced with the moment we hit the building. But the sad part is not only that, they wanted him to cancel and tell us as parents and prospective students, as we were boarding the plane, they wanted them, Reggie Theus, wanted him to call us and say, hey, the meeting's canceled, go back home. And I'm not telling you what I heard, I'm telling you what I know. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. These are recruits and they're highly recruited. I'm getting these guys in because, hey, they have agreed to come play for me. So I'm going to have these guys show up. Now, what y'all do is what y'all do. But how would you want someone to pick up the phone and call a prospective student and say, hey, don't come to BCU this weekend. This recruitment trip is canceled. If that's not the craziest thing I've heard, I really don't know what else to think. But they have some serious issues going on. You can't get rid of the board because, number one, the board is there until death or until they retire themselves.
Yep.
They're all in it together. Everybody covers up for everybody.
Let me ask you this. Because, you know, they say women intuition, right? So what was, when you saw Reggie and he was speaking and, you know, he finally came out, what were your feelings towards him as he was speaking to you? How was his body language? You know, was he remorseful? Did you have any sense that he felt bad for the kids or what was going on? What were your feelings when he was talking to you?
I immediately thought of a coward. He couldn't even look us in the face. And if you go back and look at the video, his head is down when we told him, you're the problem. And we didn't beat around the bush. We told him directly, you're the problem. If you cannot sit up here and be honest and tell these kids, hey kids, I'm sorry. I didn't ask him to, you know, it's not the point of asking him to withdraw. I made a decision. Take ownership. Be accountable for what you requested. Whether you was pressured to do it, it doesn't matter. You're the athletic director. I had a serious problem with him. Number one, you're talking to us through Zoom because you're on a basketball trip because you're also the head basketball coach. He could not address us. And then we get other people in there and we start saying, well, hey, how is this going to affect us as far as compliance goes? This is an official visit. Why would this count against us when you guys are canceling everything from this point forward? So guess what? When they canceled the rest of the itinerary, Ed reached in his pocket to make that seal with knowing that they didn't want him there. He reached in his pocket to still make it a weekend for those young men. Not only for the young men, for us parents too. He reached in his pocket. So let me tell you, on top of that, they didn't tell you how they then turned around and gave us a $30 voucher and said, hey, have dinner on us at the hotel.
At the hotel?
What? Yes, at the hotel. I kid you not, at the hotel. I kept one just so nobody could say that it wasn't true. I kept one. At the hotel, we had dinner on a $30 voucher given to us by BCU for dinner on Saturday night.
Wow.
All because you had absolutely no intentions of going forward. But guess what? I guarantee you one thing. They still want our boys. They're still following up, trying to get them there. These students with dollar signs. That's all they look at. That's all they're concerned with, the dollar sign. There's no way in the world you're going to tell me your alumni wants to give you money and have been proven to give you money up until this point forward, until you nullify that and say, hey, keep your money. We don't want any parts of you. There is no way you're going to turn down money and you need money.
Absolutely.
Something's not right. It does. I mean, make it make sense. It was the most disappointing thing to turn around and look at my child in the face. To feel that everything has gone downhill.
I'm sorry.
We already don't get a good break most of the time. But you know what? I told him, I said, with God, what's for you is for you.
There is a little bit more left to the video, but I'll end it right here. You can check the rest out on Off Script. What do you think about what she said? I personally am glad that she spoke out about it and her experience at that weekend, because we've only heard Ed say something about it and the athletic director, but we haven't heard anything from the students about that weekend. At least I hadn't heard it, and I definitely hadn't heard any parents. So I wanted to share that video because it's important to get all sides of this and see how this has impacted the parents and these potential students. Obviously, her child isn't going to go there. She's saying how they continue to try to press them to get them there, but from what she experienced, it's a no-go. I can't even blame her for that, because there's no way in heaven or hell my child would be going to play for them with no coach at the time. The way they handled that whole transaction with Ed, I know it was a difficult thing for them to figure out what to do, but at the same time, as a parent coming into such confusion and them obviously not being straight up with her and the other parents, that was just a mess, and I wouldn't want any parts of that. And now, especially when you see all the students protesting and coming out saying the conditions are horrible and even showing proof of that, nah, we're good. Yeah, that's a no-go. And I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Until next time, peace.